Good evening, everyone. We are back. It's the Black and White Show. We're live. We are live for the first time in God knows how long. It feels really good to be back. I'm joined this evening, first of all, by Jonny. Jonny, how are we, mate?
Very, very good, mate. How are you, Karl?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Very well, thank you. Feels good to be live back on the main channel. You just seen there. Adam's dropped in. Adam, how are you this evening?
Yes, I'm good, Karl. Thank you. Thanks.
Brilliant. Just to give you a brief insight as to what the show is going to be around. Obviously, the last 7 days in terms of news that's been ongoing in the club, has been quite a bit. The West Brom fixture, which is up and coming, which we had a bit of a scare whether that was actually going to go ahead, but we believe it should be. We'll have a clip to play further down the line in the show for you. But yeah, lots to discuss. Lots to discuss. What have you guys been up to today? Much at all?
We've just been chatting off air, haven't we? Obviously, I've been self-isolating. I'm still self-isolating until Sunday, so it's just it's like a prison sentence almost. But at least I got the match to look forward to on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. What about yourself, Adam?
A lot of changing shitty nappies. Nowadays, days, mate.
Yeah.
I'm on a couple of weeks leave. I go back to work next weekend, so just enjoying a bit of time with the band while I'm off work. So.
Fair enough. As you can see, we've got the WhatsApp number up on the screen as well. So please feel free to drop your questions in there, so we can answer them live throughout the show for you as well. And obviously, you'll have the chat for YouTube and Facebook as well. Kicking it off, Crystal Palace seem to have come unscathed with regards to what happened between Newcastle and Crystal Palace. Their players have been barred from indoor areas at the training ground and made to change their cars after facing COVID hit Newcastle. But luckily, they've escaped any positive tests. How positive is that for Crystal Palace, Jonny?
Very positive. Excuse the pun. That said, there's been no positive tests. It's obviously a relief more than anything. The football rivalries aside, I know we don't have a massive rivalry with Crystal Palace, but we don't want to see opposition players, doesn't matter which team it is, getting positive tests for coronavirus. We all know how the impact of coronavirus has been for the last 9-10 months in particular. So it's good news in that respect. I think the Premier League released, 14 positive tests last week. Obviously, we don't know how many that's Newcastle, but I would imagine we've got the majority of the 14 positive tests from the last week or so. But it looks like we're kind of getting back to normal in terms of the Newcastle playing squad. We've seen a couple of videos with Richie and Wilson this week, so it looks a bit more back to normality. But brilliant that Crystal Palace haven't got any issues either.
Absolutely. It come out that 3 of the Newcastle players that were actually featured in that game during the 2-0 win, were confirmed to be infected. So obviously it was a real scare for Crystal Palace. Roy Hodgson come out and said that there was concern. Our doctor and team liaison officer did exceptionally well in making certain we quickly realised it would be difficult for us to operate before we were tested. We worked very hard to make sure the players came into training in their own cars. They were changed in their cars, and we didn't have the usual breakfast and lunch facilities. We went straight from the car to the training field and back into the car. Did everything to make sure players weren't in an environment where they were close together in an indoor area. And luckily, all of our tests proved negative, and we were able to return to a normal day of working. So it seems that they had everything under control as much as they could, which, as you said yourself, Jonny, is fantastic. Just out of interest, Adam, I'm not sure myself. Have those 3 players been named, the ones that were tested positive from the Crystal Palace game?
I don't think they've been named. I think there's been assumptions made. Possibly Hayden themselves. But I think it's up to the players, medical incompetence. If they want to release it, the club can't do it. I know the club got a bit of stick for not communicating with fans, but they can't do it. It's medical incompetence, so it's got to be the players. But hopefully they're available tomorrow. It's Bruce's press conference in the morning, so hopefully we'll be a lot clearer who is available, who's not, going into the game on Saturday.
Absolutely. Are you boys feeling positive about the West Brom fixture? Again, no pun intended.
I am personally. I think obviously we're talking about that a bit more in depth in the second part of the show, but yeah, we've got to be feeling positive for West Brom at home. And look, it's one of the games at the start of the season you've gone hand-picked and gone, well, West Brom at home is what we need. We need 3 points from that game. Anything less is not good enough.
Absolutely. Just coming back to those 14 positive corona tests that you spoke about, Jonny. It's tough to say how many of them are Newcastle, but would it be right in thinking, and you might think this yourself, that the majority probably are going to be from Newcastle?
Yeah, I think I would imagine so. Obviously, it's going to be every other club's going to have maybe one or two. Obviously, positive tests. It's just at the minute London seems to be the most popular place for coronavirus. As they're only in tier 2, of course, it probably should be in tier 3 now. But look, Newcastle rightly had the game postponed last week against Aston Villa, and hopefully now we've seen the worst of it. We've hopefully got to have the worst of it gone now. It looks like the North East are doing well all the way around. We'd like to think we could be out of tier 3 next week, but knowing our luck, we've got one of the better rates in the last couple of weeks, and we'll stay in tier 3, and London will still be in tier 2. So that's politics, but we'll leave that out of it.
I was going to say I absolutely agree, but I suppose the less said about that, the better, mate. Unfortunately, the fact that Newcastle were obviously unable to train as a group, with regards to last week, was one of the main reasons that the planned trip with Aston Villa was unfortunately cancelled. Some again positive news before playing West Brom. The training ground has reopened this week, which is fantastic. Adam, how much of a boost is that for us this week?
Yeah, it's a good boost. It shouldn't be too much of an excuse, for Bruce or the players. The professionals will be training from home. They'll have thousands of pounds worth of kit at home to keep the fitness up. But getting them back in this week, it's a big boost to us, as Jonny mentioned before. We're going to speak about in the second half of the show. It's a very winnable game for us. So hopefully they're all match fit, sharp, ready to go, and it's a convincing win, which it should be for us.
Definitely. We've got a couple of clips, or a clip to go back up what we've just said with regards to training ground opening and West Brom game moving forward. So we'll just pop those clips on for you to have a listen to. It is audio only. We've just got back live. We don't want to be going off anytime soon, so we'll drop those in quickly and we'll come back to you very shortly.
The Newcastle United first team squad have been absent from the training ground behind me for the past 12 days. That after, as the club described it, a significant increase in the number of positive COVID-19 test results within the first team bubble here at the football club. Now, the training ground was closed on the advice of Public Health England this time last week, and of course their match against Aston Villa last Friday was postponed due to the fact that this place was closed and the first team that had tested negative were unable to train as a group in preparation for that game. Now, by my reckoning, those that tested positive at the start of the outbreak will be allowed to come back here to the training ground and prepare for this weekend's match against West Brom. But those who tested positive towards the end of the outbreak will still be serving that 10-day period of isolation set by the Premier League. No news from Newcastle United yet as to whether they'll appeal for this weekend's match to be postponed like they did for the Aston Villa one last week. But the fact that the training ground is back open for the players that are able to prepare for the game on Saturday would suggest the likelihood is this home match against West Bromwich Albion at St James's Park is likely to go ahead, whether Newcastle have a full complement of players to pick from or not.
We start this out with a breaking story from the Premier League. Newcastle United's match against West Brom is set to go ahead this weekend following an outbreak of COVID-19 within the first team squad last week. For the first time in 13 days, the playing squad trained together today as a group. Yesterday, on their first day back following multiple positive COVID-19 cases, those that had returned negative results trained in small groups. They arrived at different times for their small sessions. And it was on the grounds that the team were unable to prepare as a group that they managed to successfully appeal to have last Friday's match against Aston Villa postponed. At this stage, there's been no appeal from Newcastle to have Saturday's match follow suit. Now, Sky Sports News understands a handful of players remain isolating at home following positive tests over the past week, but Newcastle will have enough players to put a team out at St James's Park on Saturday. Premier League rules state that any player or staff member must isolate for 10 days after returning a positive test. Some of the squad returned positive test results less than 10 days ago at the beginning of last week. Neither Newcastle, West Brom or the Premier League have formally confirmed that this match will go ahead, but it is expected to do so. So Newcastle against West Brom in the Premier League set to go ahead.
There you have it. Looks to be going ahead, which again, fantastic news. One of the players I expect to be featured coming over to him would be Longstaff, and we've had some I think it was out of the blue news for myself. He's got a contract running up until 2022. Currently, no new deal has been offered, and he signed with super agent Pini Zahavi. Jonny, what do you make of this one, mate?
Look, I'm not surprised that Sean Longstaff has got a new agent. I'm not surprised by that at all. I think him and Matty have both wanted new agents because they want better contracts, and you could argue Sean has a stronger case now because Matty's obviously signed a 2-year deal that he probably warrants a new deal or warrants a better, improved contract because he's obviously played more Premier League games in the last obviously couple of years now. Look, agents, you can get good agents, you can get bad agents. You can look at Mino Raiola, like a Paul Pogba, speaking just before Manchester United's biggest game of the season so far, and that's a bad agent in my particular opinion. Does Sean Longstaff want to move away? We've not heard that he wants to move away. Now, if he was to move away, would he get anywhere higher in terms of, would he get into the starting 11 of a team that's in a higher position than Newcastle? I'd argue probably not. Probably not. So I would imagine you'd like to think that Newcastle can keep a hold of him and he just wants an improved contract. Like, I don't know what the people in the comments think, but it's certainly an interesting debate because I think he's improved the last couple of games. We've seen better performances from Sean Longstaff, but I still don't think we've seen the best of him because I think he's a better number 10 than he is in that normal central position. But it's interesting. It's definitely one to keep an eye on.
Definitely. I do agree with Jonny that I don't expect him to be able to break into any sort of, top 6, 11, regardless of how much he was touted with Manchester United a couple of years back. That being said, Adam, signing with an agent of this kind of ilk, do you think obviously he's going to want to make money and he's going to drum up as much interest as he possibly can? Is there a worry that he can start getting in Sean Longstaff's ear and making him believe that he is better than Newcastle United?
Yeah, 100%. 100% it's got a chance of happening. Look, as you mentioned before, the transfer that could have happened allegedly a couple of years ago with £50 million for Longstaff, every Newcastle fan was screaming he has to stay. Now I think you'd have a line of Newcastle fans want to drive into Manchester United if they came in for that money again. Agents, as Jonny said, they've got the pros, they've got the cons. It gets clubs listening if they've got a new agent. Does he want away? He hasn't got a massive contract. I don't think so. It'll be an interesting one to watch out of. But from what I've read on the socials, Twitter, Facebook, a lot of fans don't seem that concerned about Longstaff staying, to be honest.
Definitely. We just had a comment drop in here. A player like Sean will suffer if we struggle to get 40% possession. What do you make of that, Jonny?
I think he's quite right. I think we're lucky to get 40%. I think he's being generous as Rowan. It's normally about 25. No, he's completely right. I think the best of Sean Longstaff is when he's on the ball. I think my only issue with him at times is that I think he takes a little bit too long on the ball. But if he's in the number 10, he's driving on a little bit. And he has got a fantastic shot on him. We've seen that in recent games as well. I would like to see him add a few goals to his game. But again, can you do that from the position that he's at? I'd argue probably not. You're not going to get say 5 or 6 goals. You might get 2 or 3. You've seen that with Shelby over the years, that you get Nixon with an important goal. But I think that is Sean's best position as a number 10. But I'd like to see Bruce possibly change it and maybe go a little bit more attacking for the game against West Brom. But I don't see Sean Longstaff being that man that'll be trusted with that responsibility, unfortunately for him, maybe.
Definitely. Sticking with that kind of higher up the pitch position, Joe Linton, he's come out and sung the praise of Steve Bruce, backing him since his £40 million move, as he revealed that Newcastle's intention to pinch a Europa League spot this season. I'll move on to a bit more extensive breakdown of what he actually said, but on that initial statement there, Adam, what do you make of the Europa League pinch? I know it's optimistic. Do you think we've got that in us this season?
Absolutely not. He might have had a couple of beers before he put that one out, but of course he's going to love Steve Bruce. Steve Bruce has picked him every game. He had a great game last week or week before, sorry, but I'm certainly not getting carried away over him. He's got to do that consistently. Europa League, I'd love it. God, we'd all love that again. But what I will say, the next 3 to 4 games, big games coming up for Newcastle, West Brom, Fulham and Leeds. If we did get 9 points, touch wood, it's a big ask, but we'll certainly give ourselves a platform to at least look at competing in the top 10. A big ask because Leeds are a good team, and West Brom and Fulham are fighting for lives. But after that, we've got Liverpool and City, so it could go either way. If we don't get points in these games, it's not Europa League when we'll be looking for. It's scrapping at the bottom again.
Definitely. Jamiroquai has just dropped in with a comment laughing at the Europa League. Yeah, I'm with you on that one, mate. We'll take it if it comes, of course. What was going to say? Joe Linton, we talked about Sean Longstaff in improving and starting to play better, Jonny. How much has Joe Linton come on over the last couple of games? I know we've had an issue with consistency with him, but if you can keep that kind of performance he had against Palace, surely we've got to look at breaking into the starting 11 potentially.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I think with Joe Linton, like Adam's touched on there perfectly, it needs to be more consistent. But if he has the sort of game that he did against Crystal Palace, if he can add another goal to that, but with a clear-cut chance, and he gets a goal, then we'll be like, yes, that's what we need up for Joe Linton. Like the goal he scored against Crystal Palace, don't get me wrong, I was jumping around the city watching the game, but it was very, very fortunate. I'd rather he scored that chance in the first half where he nicks it off Scott Dan and buries it. We'd like to see him bury in the bottom corner.
Yeah.
Look, Joe Linton for me, he's always going to be a player that will divide fans' opinions. He will. He's just that with the price tag, isn't it? £40 million is a heck of a lot of money. Would I start him on the weekend? Yes, I would. If he hasn't got COVID, I would start him this weekend because I think he is a handful, and I think that's what we need to do against West Brom. But yeah, I'd love to see Europa League football at Newcastle, but I don't see it with Joe Linton up front for Newcastle week in, week out. At the minute, anyway, I hope I'm proved wrong.
Absolutely. Just competition in the league has massively improved from last season with the emergence of Leeds, Southampton and Everton. Even West Ham have been good. Absolutely. I think luckily for us at the moment, the bottom three haven't been fantastic at all. And as Gamer Jay said previously, he can only see us taking 3 points from the next 3 games. How about yourself, Adam? What did you say you expect us to take?
I'd expect us to beat West Brom and Fulham. Leeds will be a tough game. I'd expect us to beat West Brom and Fulham. You never know with Bruce. You never know. I expect them to keep the same team, COVID permitting, this weekend. The 4-4-2 played quite direct. I think it's going to be not the prettiest game to watch this weekend. But yeah, I'd take 6 points. I'd take 6 points now.
Definitely. How about yourself, Jonny? What do you realistically look at see us taking?
Realistically, I'd want at least 7 points. I'd like us to win both West Brom and Fulham. Leeds can be a tricky one. It just depends what sort of Leeds turn up because Bielsa's side are very much hot and cold. They're consistent with the sort of performances they have, but results-wise, they've been battered off Leicester. They've got battered off Chelsea, and I know Chelsea are a very good team, but you don't know what Leeds can turn up. They're kind of almost like what Sheffield United were last season, and we went to Bramall Lane and got 3 points.
Yeah,
and that could potentially happen with Newcastle. Very hot and cold, but I'd like if someone's offering me 7 points. Yeah, happy. 6 points is the minimum I'd want from the next 3 games.
Fair enough. Moving on, Nabil Bentaleb has been offered to Newcastle United following a Schalke kind of exile. They've basically said he's not welcome at the club. I've already put out on Twitter that I absolutely do not want him anywhere near the club, and I imagine you both probably have similar opinions. I'll come to yourself first, Adam. What do you make of all this, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the journalists are taking the mickey out of us, just keep linking them to us. They reckon Steve Bruce is a fan, but he's not a Premier League player. We'd be more mobile in the middle than him, especially if you're considering you're bringing him like you did last year ahead of the Longstaffs. It'd be a terrible move, an absolute terrible move to bring him back.
Yourself, Jonny?
No, I'd like to see him come back now, am I joking?
I thought he's being serious, and I was like, oh, God.
No. I know Sam would want him back. In all seriousness, look, I think, did he ever really impress us? He had maybe half a good game against West Brom in the Cup. But, no, not for me. I think he doesn't offer you anything to the middle of the park. I would probably say Championship's his level. I really would. I think he would probably do okay in the Championship because he likes to have a bit of a battle, likes to have a bit of a bit more freedom on the ball, which he would get in the Championship, but in the Premier League, you're not going to do that. He's probably bottom of the list in terms of centre midfielders that Newcastle had at that last game of the season against Liverpool. But did he start? Of course he did.
Yeah. Rohan made an excellent point there. He struggled against Gareth Barry and Brunt with a combined age of 102. Don't get me wrong, Gareth Barry has been an excellent Premier League player over the years, but yeah, he shouldn't be struggling at that sort of age with the lack of mobility there. Another transfer rumour, Aberdeen striker Cosgrove over to Newcastle. I don't know too much about Cosgrove, I'll admit to that. How about you, Johnny? Have you, anything positive to say about this? Sorry to put you on the spot there.
No,
mate.
it's. Do you know what it is, mate? Like I occasionally watch Celtic and Rangers when they're on, because to be honest, I prefer watching Celtic and Rangers play against Scottish teams in some championship games this season. But normally there's a crowd there, so you get a bit more of an atmosphere. Aberdeen always kind of that third best team in Scotland, aren't they? Cosgrove, I've heard of him. But I don't think Newcastle should be targeting players of Aberdeen, in my personal opinion. You look at the strikers that, say, maybe Celtic and Rangers have got. I remember me and Adam having a conversation about Edouard at Celtic. And then Rangers, you've got Morelos, who's always been linked with a Premier League move. Kemar Roof, who used to play for Leeds, who we've got next week. He for me, there's three players straight away in that division that are much better than Cosgrove, in my personal opinion. I haven't watched a lot of them. I don't know if Adam has, but that would be my thought on it.
Adam, have you make much of Cosgrove?
I'm the same as Johnny. I don't watch a lot of the SPL. No disrespect to them, but we've been linked with a few odd centre forwards. There's a lad from Peterborough, a lad from Crewe, all lower league type stuff. Not prolific. If Dwight Gale's fighting fit again in January, do we need to go and get a centre forward? Not for me. But if he's looking, he's come to the end of his deal. If they're looking to sell him, we do need someone else up top. Callum Wilson can't do it all by himself. But it's so the market's so inflated. You've got to pay big money to go and get someone, and we're only going to go and probably get a loan deal in January. So it's always a gamble getting players in from Scotland. Again, no disrespect to any Scottish fans watching. We've been stung in the past. Like a Boom Song, people like that. And he still gives me shivers mentioning his name. So I'm just very wary. It's one of them.
Absolutely. Just before we move on to another striker that's been linked, we just had a comment pop up. What's each of our opinions on Manquillo? Adam, I'll come to yourself first, and we'll all chip in on that one.
I think he's either great or he's shite. He's so inconsistent for me. He's a bit lightweight for a right back. I like a right back to be strong, quick. I don't think he's the quickest. I think it's an area we do need to improve on in January. Yedlin looks on the way. Kraft's not good enough. And I do think we need a solid right back. You look at, when we had Debuchy there, he was good. Going back to Danny Simpson years, we've had decent right backs, and I just think that's a place we're struggling for now. So, I'm not as big as fan, but he's probably our best right back at the minute.
Yeah, Johnny, you in agreement with that?
I echo the last sentence that he says. He's not very good, but he's probably our best right back. I think that sums Manquillo up. I've never been his biggest fan. I have to be honest. I look at the options that we've got. I always kind of used to side with Yedlin because of his pace. Yeah, I felt that his pace was something that obviously Manquillo just couldn't compete with. Yeah, but his crossing is horrendous, and defensively Yedlin is just all over the place at the minute. Manquillo for me, I wasn't happy that he got a new contract. I know he's probably played better, but I agree with Adam. Why did we not get a new right back in the summer? That would have been my look at it. I don't know if they just thought Emil Kraft was going to be that next big thing at right back, and they decided to go with him. But he was worse than Yedlin. I think he had one. It
was quite a big deal, wasn't it? It was quite a big contract. 4 or 5 years he got as well.
Yeah, I guess I don't get that. I don't get that at all. I think for me, like, could we've got a better right back at Newcastle, in my opinion. I think we could have done. It depends on what Steve Bruce is looking for, though, because if he's looking for an out and out attacking right back, Max Aarons was a good shout at Norwich. Now, could we have gone for him? Arguably, there's probably bigger clubs looking at him. That might have been different, but if he wants a defensive right back, there's definitely several options, because you've got Jamal Lewis on the left hand side. Can you have two out and out attacking fullbacks. Again, I don't know.
I echo what you both said. I was a big fan of Mankier, but I think that was always clouded by the fact that he was the best of a bad bunch, definitely. So I wouldn't disagree with anything said. Harry come and said, "What are we saying about Jetro Williams making a return?" We were just moving on to that, mate. So you must be reading my mind. He's rejected a contract extension. He wants to push for a Newcastle move. Would you take it? I'll come. Whoever wants to answer that one, because everyone, yeah.
I think it's a sensible bit of business for both parties. He's out of contract in the summer. He did a good job for us. I think getting him in on loan, I guess, just to check his fitness, and more important for me, gives competition for Jamal Lewis. I think Jamal Lewis needs pushing a bit more, so we see the better of him. And he was a fan favourite with him from his time. That goal against Liverpool, it was absolute class. I'd have absolutely no concerns of having him back at the club.
Do you echo that, Jonny?
I do echo that. I think the only thing I would say to add to that is that potentially you've got a replacement there for Jamal Lewis. Yes, of course you have. But you saw on against Crystal Palace, Matt Ritchie came on for 20 minutes. Could he have done the job that Matt Ritchie done? Of course he can. And he's got a good cross in the Jetro Willems as well. He's obviously attacking minded as well. So again, I wouldn't necessarily rule that one out. But I think Adam's right. I think it makes sense. I don't think it'd be for a heck of an amount of money. So Newcastle will probably save money from when they probably originally wanted to buy him. My only issue is his fitness. How fit is he? Because he's had terrible injuries in the past.
Yeah. So, and if anyone remembers, I think it was my first live show. I said I'd take Williams back for 20 million. So I love him. So there's my answer. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't spend 20 million, but I definitely want him back at the club. 100%. I think someone mentioned about Neil Lennon. Myself and Adam have been trying to pry this question away from the channel completely, but it will keep rearing its ugly head. People touting Eddie Howe. I'd personally like to see Steven Gerrard. I don't think he'd come over right now because he's doing absolute bits at Rangers. But I will ask you, Jonny, if it come to it, and it probably won't. If Bruce was to be sacked in some twilight zone, who would you want to bring into the club realistically?
Well, look, Neil Lennon's struggling at Celtic. Celtic, it's a massive year for Celtic. If there's Scottish fans watching 10 in a row, it's never been done before. And Celtic are still on the verge, I suppose, of doing that because there's still quite a large chunk of the season left. But I think something like 11 points off Rangers or 14 points off Rangers. But they have got 2 games in hand, which is basically just about keeping them in the title race because there's still quite a few old firm games left in the season. Lennon is a manager that I think is good for the Scottish League, probably not good enough for the Premier League. Gerrard, we don't know. He's unproven in the Premier League. Lennon is to a degree, but he didn't do well at Bolton, who were in the Championship at the time. So I'm kind of siding with Karl. I think Gerrard would be, if it was out of them two in particular, I would side with Gerrard because I think what he's doing with Rangers, especially in Europe, he's getting the best out of some average players, in my particular opinion. But we had CJ on, CJ Novo 992, I think he's called. I had a chat with him over the summer, and Gerrard needs to do it at Rangers first before a Premier League team go for him. He's doing it at Rangers. He needs to win a trophy. Rangers are the most successful team in Scotland. They need to be winning trophies. If they don't win trophies, he ain't coming to Newcastle.
Definitely. Just going back to some transfer rumours, centre-half positioning. Phil Jones been linked with the club. Anyone be happy with this?
He gets a lot of stick. I don't think it'd be a bad signing, depending on the fee. If it's a loan deal for 6 months, I can't see how it would. I'm going to take that seriously, Lee. Take that up.
It looks like Sam after Jeff Hendricks just played an hour, doesn't it?
Look, he's played for one of the biggest clubs in the world, Champions League football. What he needs to do, he needs to prove himself again, and I think that's where a transfer would be good. He needs to rebuild his career because it's in tatters at Man U. And he's the type of player, if he went to a club, he'd probably go and do all right. I think it's just because of all his gurning and the odd mistake he makes. He's got a bad reputation, but I don't think he'd be the worst centre-half sign if it was a loan, but I wouldn't pay big money for him.
Fair enough. What about yourself, Jonny?
Phil Jones, again, we haven't seen a lot of him. There's no match fitness with Neil. I was going to say Neil Jones there. With Phil Jones, rather. He hasn't played any football. He's not in Man United's Premier League squad. So if just seen Sam's comment there.
Yeah.
I think he's mixed that up, hasn't he, Adam? It's the Jonny and Greenwood show, or whatever you call it. Yeah. Now, Phil Jones, for me, you're looking at another month of match fitness before he even comes to Newcastle. Now, would he get into Newcastle, say, even if we're playing 2 or 3, would he get into that 2 or 3? I'd argue no. I think Cleveland Clark's probably better. I think in a 3, Fabian Schär's good in a 3, but in a 2, he's not very good at all. The Sells, I think, is better than him. I think Fernandez is better than him. I think Dummett, if even Dummett had to do a job there, I think Dummett argue could do a better job in that position, but he has got experience. Now, if it's for a sensible fee, maybe, but I don't see it unless Steve Bruce has already agreed to this deal, which with his Manchester United links, it wouldn't surprise me.
I'd pay no more than 5 million, no more at all than that, or just a loan deal.
Is he worth that much?
Not even that. But me personally, I think Schär's away in January, so I think they'll be looking at a centre half. So as I said, if anyone's got any better ideas out there, I know the lad from Chelsea thing probably going to, but I think he's not great, as people have mentioned. He's always injured, but his experience, it could come in helpful for maybe half the season.
Definitely keep sticking with defensive transfer rumours. Look, someone I would definitely not be against coming back to the club is James Tavernier, and would arguably potentially solve that right back issue we've got as well, because he seems to be another player that's pushed on from Newcastle United and developed quite well. Jonny, would you be happy with this?
Well, I've just said there that I'm not too keen on the right back that we've got, regardless of who it is, if it's any 3 of them. So, look, Tavernier's a player that Gerrard highly, highly rates at Rangers. I think the worry for him is that there's 18 months left on his contract. I didn't realise he was 29. I'm quite surprised he was that old, to be honest. I thought he was probably in his mid-20s. But again, how much can you realistically say for a 29-year-old from Rangers? How much would the Rangers want? They'd probably want a lot more than what those clubs that I mentioned that are linked with them would want to pay. So he's a Newcastle fan, remember, because he was at the club growing up. And obviously Newcastle got rid of him, as they got rid of most of the good players over the years. So I wouldn't be against it, but I'd probably want somebody a little bit younger. I think because we need to try and, I think, probably get good 5-6 years out of him with Tavernier. Can you guarantee 5-6 good years with an aging right back? I know he's had a good season in Scotland, but again, it's Scotland. See, the Rangers are settled in that league.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough ask to do that, isn't it? Just seen a comment there about Alex Tuanzebe from Manchester United. He had a stint at Villa and he was absolutely fantastic for them, to be fair. There's, in my opinion, there's not got much competition there because I don't rate their centre-halves, but I'm not digging Villa. That's just me. Would you be happy with Tuanzebe, Adam?
Yeah, again, if it's a loan deal or a sensible one, I mentioned I do think Schär's going, so we'll probably need a bit cover, and it will be a loan deal. I'm not overly keen on helping Man United out, and given their players' experience, if we're not benefiting in the long run. But I don't know. You know what our transfer business is like; it never usually makes sense. So we'll see what happens in January.
Just in Ginger Hoskins put about Jones hasn't played in 2 years yet. Jonny did discuss that. Also, I've just seen from him as well, Kevin Mbabu, what a career he's having away from Newcastle. Another one we've let slip away. That's an absolutely fantastic right back. I would love him back at the club. And he slipped my mind. Definitely love him back at the club. One last transfer rumour is Montpellier striker Laborde. Do you know much about Laborde yourself, Jonny? You caught much of him at all?
I know I think he scored 3 goals so far, but the chance already there, isn't it? Like when the ball hits the net, or when you're sat in rows out, that's Laborde. So there's a good chance straight away. But again, I don't watch a lot of the French league. It's a bit like, well, PSG aren't winning the league, and it's a major shock. But we've had players from France in the past, some good, some not so good. The £10 million in this current climate, it's probably a good deal for Newcastle, but again, I haven't seen a lot of them.
Yeah. Just before we come to the end of the first half of the show, I'll be passing over to Jonny very shortly, and we'll have an ad break in between. I just wanted to touch upon I'll pass it over to Jonny for this one. Unfortunately, we've had some very sad news come to us today. Who is a follower of the channel, and there's been a lot of support from Newcastle fans and the club and ex-players all over social media with regards to this terrible news, Jonny. I'll pass it over to you, mate, because it's quite quite close to home for myself. It's been something I've been through myself, so it's unfortunate that this has come about, isn't it, mate?
I think I'd just like to say on behalf of everybody at Newcastle Fans TV, would like to offer our condolences to the family and friends of Martin, who sadly has passed away this evening. Obviously on Monday afternoon there was a message obviously showing that he was in a bit of a bad place, and it was revealed on Monday evening that he had been found by the police. And be a game changer. We've actually, me and Sam have spoken to the head of Newcastle United Foundation, Steve Harrell, and be a game changer is about getting more men to talk about their mental health. All I can say is that if you need to speak to people, there is numbers there. Be a Game Changer has all the numbers that you need to speak to. But it's a real shame because, he said on that tweet he's a Geordie. And I think it really got on the heartstrings of a lot of, I think, Newcastle people. You didn't have to be a football fan. You saw the outreach of everybody, people that we might not even like, was trying to reach out to make sure that this young man had a bit of help. And even the club get a lot of bad press at times, but they came out with a tweet. Jamal Lascelles as well came out with a tweet to try and see if they could do anything.
Yeah. Keith Gillespie was in there as well, wasn't he?
Keith Gillespie, Isaiah Perez, former Newcastle player. It's very, very sad news. And as I've mentioned at the top, I'm sure all three of us here would like to offer our best. And a very, very sad day. And I know it might not. The game on Saturday probably means to insignificance now, but if Newcastle do manage to pick up 3 points, I think I'd like to see Newcastle dedicate the win to Martin and his family.
Absolutely, and I'd just echo what Jonny says in terms of people pushing for men to talk about it. I don't think any one of us and the rest of the lads that are involved with Newcastle Fans TV, if there's anyone here that has any issues, by all means, just drop us a message. I think everyone would take time out their day to have a chat with everyone. We'll come off that somber note, and I'll hand the second half of the show over to Jonny after this short clip.
You're watching The Black and White Show with Newcastle Fans TV.
Here at Newcastle Fans TV have we got a treat for you. We have 3 membership programs ranging from bronze, silver and gold. The higher you go, the more access you get to behind the scenes videos and also videos across the internet which are trending. We also offer first exclusive look at all of our videos. There is posts. There is also exclusive to what we're up to and what we have planned in the coming days, so you find out before everybody else. There is also behind the scenes footage, which you can see here. Sam setting up, ready to interview Warren Barton and Craig Moore, making sure that his mic is set up and he has the 2 screens set up. And this is just some of the stuff that we do. There is so much more and plans coming to develop the membership behind the scenes. So thank you for our current members who've been there since the start. And this one about me is just thanking all the members supporting the channel during the COVID-19, what happened in the summer. Come over and have a look. Come and join.
Welcome back to The Black and White Show with Newcastle Fans TV.
Welcome back to part 2 of The Black and White Show here with Newcastle Fans TV's very own Jonathan Greenwood, Karl and Adam. We're going to start with the WhatsApp straight away. We've got a couple straight away. We've got one from Stephen. Hi lads, I've heard rumours about the Newcastle game against Villa could have been moved to midweek next week. Do you think this would have been true? P.S. I wouldn't have thought so. Adam, I'll let you start with that. Do you think there was enough time for that game to maybe been played in the midweek?
I think we discussed it last week. I think the Premier League are probably hoping us and Villa both get knocked out the FA Cup. We've got Arsenal and Villa have got a tough tie as well. And So I think that's what the Premier League will be hoping. If not, I'd probably expect it to be towards the end of the season. It's going to do no club any good, just pushing it in the extra December schedule, personally. So I think it'll be if we both get knocked out of the cup, which hopefully we obviously don't. Otherwise, I think it'll be caught up towards the end.
Remember, you can get your WhatsApps in. It's 44 7476 4971 66. You guaranteed your message to be read out if you WhatsApp us. We can't get through every message on the comments, but keep those comments coming in. We're getting absolutely loads. Karl, the next one's saying, what do you think Newcastle's score will be on Saturday against West Bromwich Albion?
I am really confident about this one. West Brom have not been a very good side at all this year. Usually they come up, have a good go of it, but it doesn't seem to be the case. I think it would be a comfortable 2 or 3-0 victory for us, to be honest.
Well, I hope so as well. Adam, I'll let you finish off this last question. If we were to sell Shaw in January, you mentioned that before, Adam, in the first part. I'd rather bring back Lejeune or Watts from loan than get Phil Jones. Florian Lejeune is doing very well at Alaves. Do you think should we try to get him back a bit earlier, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, as Sam, who's also on the channel, always says, and he commented before, Lejeune's arguably our best defender. And it looks like we've sent him out on loan to get match fitness, to get a season under his belt, which he seems to be getting. You know, he's in teams that have beaten Real Madrid, great teams, playing competitive football. I don't know what the clause is. If Shaw, I agree with it. If Shaw is to go, just get Lejeune back. You know, don't go and be, spend the money we don't need to when we've got a lad. Lejeune was our best centre half until he got injured, about 2 bad injuries. So yeah, he's arguably our best centre half playing in Spain. So unless he's unhappy here on Tyneside, I can't see why we wouldn't want to just bring him back.
Of course. Remember, as Lee has got on the screen, if you want your messages read out, it's 44, which is basically just a 007 476 4971 66. You're guaranteed your messages to be read out later on in the show. Part 2 is about the West Brom game. We're going to preview it. We're going to start with West Bromwich Albion. Only 1 win this season so far, Karl, against Sheffield United in a fantastic Saturday evening game. If you can remember it. But they're just coming off a 5-1 defeat to Crystal Palace. Pereira, massive miss. Pereira for West Bromwich Albion was sent off for a kick out. It wouldn't be a kick out if it was in Newcastle, put it that way, if it was in the big market. But what do you make of the fact that he's not available, Karl?
Yeah, it's another positive, isn't it? Crystal Palace, a team that we've arguably, we're lucky to get that 2-0 result against, I would say. But we were more positive in play going forward. So if they're going to stuck 5 past them with Pereira in the side, without him, I think it's we can be confident that we are going to get a result. Personally, yeah.
Adam, what have you made of Pereira so far at West Brom? Because he has that free role. If you look at West Brom's formation most of the season, it's a 3-4-1-2. And in that one just behind the strikers, he has been given that free role. It seems to be, I don't know, maybe West Brom's equivalent of the Alan saint-maximin. He's allowed to just do what he likes. It's a massive boost for Newcastle. Yeah,
he's a dangerous player. He's looking frustrated in the West Brom team. I think that's where his little kick out came. There's a bit of frustration building up in his game. It certainly benefits us. So West Brom, we was very disappointed to lose him, because they're going to consider this a big game. Any Baggies fans or the scouting team West Brom who've been watching Newcastle, they'll be looking at this and saying we have to beat Newcastle, because the manager's job's on the line. There's a lot of rumours if he does lose the game, he'll be away, and it's a shame because he's a good manager, and obviously his star players let him down for this weekend. But you can't take them for granted. We've seen it before with West Brom in the Premier League with previous teams. The bottom of Christmas down and out, and then they come back flying. So yeah, fingers crossed we deal with them properly on Saturday.
Hopefully we do. Karl, as you can see, the last 6 games, you take with that Crystal Palace game, a lot of the games have been very, very close. They have picked up the odd point against West Brom away, and obviously that Sheffield United game we've mentioned. But apart from that sending off against Crystal Palace, 1-0s against Man United and Spurs, so they've been in the game. Arguably should have had a penalty against Man United. It's not going to be a 5-0 or a 4-0. It might be a 2-1 or a 1-0. against a West Brom team that I've got experience at the back in Branislav Ivanovic, Kyle Bartley. There's two players straight away. You know the names of, in particular, Ivanovic. It's going to be a tough afternoon if it is Wilson and Joe Linter against those two defenders in particular.
Yeah, looking at it, you could make that argument definitely, because they haven't conceded that many goals bar the Palace game. But are they playing the Man United of old? No. Tottenham have had some off weeks as well. I think that Tottenham result, I'm not sure if Son was in that game. I might be wrong in saying that. So you can make that argument on paper, definitely. But for me, I think, they have got Bartley and they have got some absolutely some credible defensive players. But I think we've got more than enough firepower to put 2 or 3 goals past them comfortably, personally. They say the game's not played on paper, so we'll see what we can come out with on Saturday. But that being said, it's dependent on what Bruce does, isn't it? He could sit back. You never know. So for me, I expect a comfortable win, personally. But I could absolutely understand the argument against that and it being a tough game. I think the only reason for me thinking it would be a tough game is because Steve Bruce is in charge.
We'll touch on Newcastle very, very shortly. But looking at the table, as you can see on your screen, West Brom 19th, 11 games, 6 points. But minus 15 on the goal difference already this early on in the season, Adam. West Brom have actually conceded 3 or more goals 4 times already this season. Now, if I was Newcastle or if I was Steve Bruce, Adam, I'd be going, right, let's try and go ultra attacking for this game, because our defence is pretty solid at the best of times. West Brom don't score a lot of goals in a game, apart from that Chelsea game. So I would say we've got to really, really go for it. And Steve Bruce has really got to put his neck on the line and go, right, let's go 4-4-2. Let's stick Hendrick on the bench and let's get an attacking winger against this West Brom defence in particular.
Yeah, you're right. He's probably saying the freaking opposite, to be fair. But I'm not as confident as Karl, I won't lie. And it does. I'm not going to turn this into another Steve Bruce thing, but it will come down to tactics, because this is a game we should be on the front foot for, which we're not used to being. So I think that'll play into West Brom's hands. West Brom will probably try and play us on the counter attack, which we're not great at. But yeah. Averaging conceding 3 goals in your game, you've got to exploit that. Callum Wilson's on fire at the minute. Maximin, will he be back in? If he is, you'd like to say it's for Hendrick. I think he'll keep it unchanged. I wouldn't be surprised if Maximin is fit, he's on the bench, but we'll know more tomorrow. But yeah, it's got to be a game. We just go and put our stamp on it from the first whistle. There's too many times over the years we've let the teams below us, beat us, when we've been confident. And hopefully, when me and Karl sat watching it on Saturday, it's a comfortable game for a change.
Hopefully, definitely. And remember, if you want your WhatsApp message to be read out, 44 74 76 49 71 66. The 44 is just a 0 if you're in the UK. So, if you want to get your message out, you're guaranteed that message to be read out if it's via WhatsApp. Liam Kerr has just messaged where the sexy one in the dressing gown. Look, it looks like I've got a dressing gown on with this, to be fair. With a grey jacket, it matches probably that anyway. But Liam loves a dressing gown, doesn't he, Adam?
Was that him or his lass who was texting?
I hope I can't say anything. I went to school with his missus, so which I only found out very recently as well. But that's a different video on the Black and White show anyway. James is saying Wilson is on fire. Your defence is terrified. I don't even know if he spelled terrified right, but anyway. Karl, last bit on West Brom. Conor Gallagher, another name that's been mentioned that Newcastle fans should probably look out for. Really, obviously, you've got the full squad on your screen now. Conor Gallagher, a young player in the centre of midfield, has been getting a lot of rave reviews. From what you've seen of him, Karl, what have you made of him?
Yeah, he looks a very bright spark, to be fair. He reminds me of a bit sort of, he's dynamic. He's kind of like what I would say Matty Longstaff is to us, if that makes sense. Very dynamic, quick on the ball. He's definitely one that we need to watch out for. We need to be mobile around him, because he definitely could hurt us if not.
Yeah, Grady Diangana is another name as well, Adam. West Ham fans were livid when the owners decided to sell him to West Brom for around about £15 million. He's shown glimpses, but again, another player don't want to basically let loose on our defence at times.
No, as I say, it's a potential bananas game. We've got to be on it from the first whistle, because I honestly think West Brom will look at this game and go, we have to beat Newcastle. This is a big game for them, because they're starting to get cut adrift. And if, it gets dangerous around this time, the Christmas time, if you're in the bottom three, you lose your confidence. So we've got to be at them. We're not the best defensively either. So, let's just hopefully he gets his tactics right and the players turn up.
Yes, of course. And again, obviously, I've seen a couple more messages in regards to Martin's passing as well. So if you want to send your messages in regards to the sad news this evening, by all means. And again, we'll mention just very briefly, if there's any numbers that you want, we'll put them in the description as well later on this evening. Moving on to Newcastle. The starting 11, Adam, I'll come back to you on this one. After the Palace game was Darlow and goal, Lewis, Fernandez, Clark and Mankiewicz, Shelby and Longstaff in the middle, Hendrick, Almiron, Joelinton, Wilson. Now, obviously, COVID depending, we don't know who's fit or who's been training. The only two players that we know that have been definitely training, ironically, one of them being very important, is Callum Wilson. Now, you talked about Callum Wilson in so much positivity, Adam, against Crystal Palace, and that he makes the difference. This must be a game that he's relishing, because he might get more than just one or two chances in a game.
Yeah, and that's why in this game, West Brom stats, as we mentioned before, we need to be getting the ball in the 18-yard box as much as we can, because that's where Callum Wilson's dangerous. He's unreal in that 18-yard box, probably one of the best I've seen in a lot of years at Newcastle. Balls drop from him, he's putting it in the net, he gets the little one-on-ones like he did against Palace, he puts it away. He doesn't really need that second chance because he takes his first. So, what's he on now? 7 goals?
7 goals, yeah.
7 goals. So, before the end of the season, you'd like to see him hitting near 20, to be fair. I don't think that's unrealistic. I don't think that's expecting too much from him, especially with England looking at him. But yeah, these are the games where you've paid 20 million for a striker, you're expecting to put the game to bed. So fingers crossed he does.
Karl, the centre of midfield is going to be a bit of a discussion. Longstaff and Shelby. If Isaac Hayden's fit, does he start, or do you not change them two?
For me, if Hayden's fit and John Joe's starting, they have to be starting together for me. They complement each other. The kind of polar opposites in their game, but they have to be playing together to excel, if that makes sense. As much as I want Longstaff to do well, you've touched upon it yourself, Jonny. He's better in that 10 role than he is central. So I definitely need Hayden and Shelby in the middle together, providing he's fit. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Adam, we talked about Joelinton. Jeff Hendrick is a player that we've seen a little bit on the left-hand side. Do you think potentially that Jeff Hendrick should be dropped for this game?
Yes, 100%. He shouldn't really be considered to start unless we're down to the bare bones, which we might be. He doesn't bring anything to the team. Against Palace, he was probably the worst player. He's won out of games to impress me. He's lost me, to be fair, but I don't know what his best position is.
Mate. Never a guess. Never a guess.
It can come down to the manager as well. He has to be in his defence. He has been playing right midfield and he's been centre mid. He shouldn't be keeping Almiron, Maximum, the Longstaffs, Hayden, Shelby out the team. Absolutely no chance. If he wants to come on 10 minutes and tighten things up, if we're winning, fair enough. He might be that type of player. But no, I don't think he should be near the starting lineup.
Yeah. Thogden loves the black and white show. I don't know who Thogden is, but does anybody know who Thogden is?
No.
Oh well. And if he wants to come on, he's more than welcome to come on anyway. Newcastle. I think Lee's like, I do. Lee, tell us who he is if you can in the message.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks to Thogden. Thanks to Thogden. Thank you very much for getting people up to speaking about Newcastle v West Brom on a Saturday 3:00 kickoff. Right, let's talk about Jamal Lascelles a little bit, because there was a conversation. Thogden loves the black and white show. Well, there you go. Happy days. Yeah, big thanks to that guy who's put $35. That's a big thing. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
anyway.
massive. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So talk about Jamal Lascelles, Adam. If he's fit for this game, because there was questions that he wasn't fit for the Crystal Palace game. Do you think that he should start against West Brom?
No. Me and Karl have spoke about Lascelles a lot on the watch-alongs. We thought it was time he was dropped from the team. He obviously missed it the last game through what we believe is COVID. So Kieran Clark and Fernandes for me are much better. I've got much more confidence in them. Fernandes is our best centre half, has been this season. I think the stats, someone put out some stats on the socials today or yesterday, from the Over 14 website. He's the top tackle maker in that. And Kieran Clark's just coming back to fitness. So I think Lascelles will start if he's fit. I know what Bruce is like. And he'll stick with him. He's his captain. But I prefer Clark and Fernandes personally.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that you have to consider. He is the captain of the club, Karl. I've just seen Thog on the Tyne is all mine. So
I know, it's still getting a bit mad. Thogden's army have come over and taken over the chat.
Karl, Jamal Lascelles, is he still Newcastle's best centre half at the minute?
No, mate. I hate saying it, but he's not. I love him. I love what he brings to the club. He's not our best centre half right now, in my opinion. I think I know Kieran Clark's only played one game, but from what he's done, he has the potential to be. I think Fernandes is our best centre half that we have at the club right now. And he looked the polar opposite of what he has this season. As soon as Kieran Clark come back, and he mirrored the player he was last season. Because I think he's been, whatever's happened and what Bruce has drummed into their head or whatever they're doing in training, there seems to be a complete lack of chat between the two of them. Lascelles and Fernandes, that is, and they've just not been the players that we expect from them at all. They've both been very shy from the ball and stepping back and sitting back far too deep. So Kieran Clark coming back and giving them a kick up the arse to say it will hopefully bring out the best in themselves. But no, mate, he's definitely not the best centre half at the club right now.
Yeah, get your comments in if you think that Jamal Lascelles is the best centre half at Newcastle at the minute. This is your last chance to get your WhatsApps in. The number is on the screen. It's 44 74 76 497 166. Predictions, gents, for this game. Adam, what are you thinking?
I'm going to go 2-1 Newcastle. Callum Wilson, both goals.
Brilliant. Karl?
I'm going 3-0 Newcastle. Goal Linton hat-trick. But not a hat-trick from him. I think he might get on the score sheet, and I reckon a brace from Wilson.
I'm just as confident. I'm going 2-0 Newcastle. I think Callum Wilson is bound to be on the score sheet for Newcastle. Just as long as he gets the support, because I think he will be someone that just needs to get another goal because he's just so good at the minute. He is really, really good. I think we've been talking before, Adam, myself and Adam, we just so much rate Wilson. He was my number one choice back in the summer as well. So I'm glad I was proved right on that one. Let's get the WhatsApps in for the last time before we end the show. If we've got any more, I don't even know if we've got any more.
I know we've got Thogden's army. We might have to go through all of theirs.
I think we might do. Here we go. At the end of the season, if one of them leaves you, stay Dubravka or Darlow. This is a big debate, Karl. Dubravka or Darlow, when both fit, who's starting goal?
I hate this question. I really do. I'm so happy with how Darlow's played, and I don't want to see him go. And I completely understand why people would say the opposite in keeping Dubravka. But we spoke about it before. I think the way that they are, as good as they've both been for us, unfortunately, one's going to leave because there's no way that they are going to take a number 2 spot. I would like to keep Darlow. I think a lot of people might disagree with me, but I'd like to keep Darlow.
Where do you stand on this, Adam?
I personally, Darlow's been excellent, absolutely brilliant. I just think Dubravka's just that bit better for me. Bruce has got a very difficult decision on his hands come January when Dubravka's expected back because he's got the Euros coming up. Darlow, it's a complete lack of respect from Gareth Southgate that he's not even had a conversation with Karl Darlow yet, because Karl Darlow form-wise is head and shoulders above Dean Henderson because he's not playing, and Jordan Pickford, and that's got nothing to do with being a Sunderland fan. We know what his form's like, so he should be knocking on the door for England. Karl, he's been that good for us. But for me personally, I just think Dubravka is that bit better.
I agree just with Adam. I think it's Dubravka for me just over Darlow. But again, we've got to be so happy with how Darlow's been playing at the minute. He's been absolutely brilliant. Darlow, there's a good comment actually here saying Darlow's less injury prone. So yeah, I have to say that. It is a very good point. Adam, I'll let you start off with this question. Do you think Paul Dummett will get any more game time this season if fit?
If that's the thing, if fit, he's been plagued by injuries the last few years. He was just about to come back, then he got another injury. Is he even back in training yet? I'm not sure.
I think so.
But yes, if he's fully fit, as whoever it is has asked, I do think Bruce would play him. So if he was fully fit, I do think he'd get game time. But I think his career is slowly dwindling out. He's been at Newcastle years and years, and he's about 29, 30 now.
Yeah,
he's not a young lad, anymore. Like I remember him when he scored the goal against Man U, and there's big things expected. He's come to the end of his career, so no, I don't think he's going to be at Newcastle much longer.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with Paul Dummett. Great servant for Newcastle for sure. The last question at the top, if Lee can just press that top one, that would be absolutely brilliant. Have you lads seen Europa: The Last Battle? I don't know. I don't know what that is. I'm not going to get into it because I've seen a lot of political views in the comments, which I don't think it's the time or the place to talk about it. And we're just here to talk about a Newcastle game, believe it or not. We'll leave that for another day. But the last question at the top, 3-0 Newcastle. Do you think they will sign? I don't know who that. I don't know if that's a proper player, so I'm going to leave that one. Bruce advised us Birmingham fans to watch the greatest story never told us to get fired up for games. KRO. You know what Brummy land is like, Karl. What's KRO mean?
I'm quite interested to know who that is. It's keep right on. Is that a Brummy that's texting? Hopefully it's not some clown, not one of my friends. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, he's just been the same at every club he's been at, hasn't he? So he's not changed. His football style hasn't changed. Yeah, I can't say anything positive about it, unfortunately.
No. Well, Steve Bruce is looking for 3 points on Saturday against West Bromwich Albion, and Newcastle Fans TV will have all the reaction for the game. I'll be doing the quick thoughts, and then it's the fan reaction show. It's back this Saturday as well, so make sure that you get involved. You can come onto the stream, get your say across for Newcastle versus West Bromwich Albion. The player ratings will also be back, scoring the players with myself, and I think Sam's on it. I don't know if one of these two are on it as well, actually. I think we know it's not Adam. So it's somebody else as well. I have to look at me messages. But yeah, make sure you get involved. And the last word will also be on Saturday evening at some point as well with Lee. So again, Newcastle versus West Brom is a big game for both clubs. Hopefully Newcastle can move off 13th place. It seems like they're always on 13th place. Hopefully they can get a bit of a battle for the top 10. Big thanks to Karl.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to say quickly as well, because we've got this art of football competition going on. I've bought this myself, so this is what you can win. Like, really good quality. Just want to throw that in there.
There's some good competition. We have 2 competitions, as you can see, running on Newcastle Fans TV, Instagram and Facebook channels as well. So make sure you give them either a like or a follow if you can. That'll be absolutely brilliant as well. A big thanks to Adam.
Pleasure, Jonny. Thank you.
No problem. Well, I say, gents, hopefully we'll get 3 points. We're going to talk about something more positive unless it's positive coronavirus tests. We'll have to wait and see. Thanks very much. I'll see you all very, very soon.